Welcome to episode 155 of In Touch with iOS, a podcast that talks about iPhone, iPad, Apple Watch, Apple TV, and related technologies. I'm your host, Dave Ginsburg, and my co-host, Warren Sklar, is here. How are you doing, Warren?
Actually pretty good. I'm not at the beach house on the Thursday night, so I get my
That's good.
I get my reel set up for now, and we'll see how it goes next week.
All right. Well, we want you to be comfortable. We want you to be comfortable. But I also want to welcome back to the show Holden DePardo. How you doing, Holden?
Doing well. Thanks for having me.
Also back on the show, they come as a tag team here. Brian DePardo. How you doing, Brian?
David, I'm doing wonderful. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Glad you guys could be back. I think it's like your third or fourth time now.
Yeah.
Glad you guys
as a team. Yeah, I think so.
Glad you guys are enjoying coming on the show. We always have a lot of fun, and it's post dub, and we don't have to talk really much about dub anymore, other than some of the other stuff like iOS 15 and everybody belly aching about it, and all that fun stuff. So, but we have a lot of news this week. We can go through that, and Warren's dog did something. We'll talk about that just a bit, and lots of other fun things to talk about here. So let's just dive right into the news here this week. Mac rumors: Apple launches the podcast subscriptions. We've been waiting just intently for this, right? Apple has announced, Apple has announced that the Apple podcast subscriptions for shows and channels rolled out worldwide, showcasing a large number of new shows, groups of podcasts, and channels. So when listeners purchase a subscription to a show, they automatically follow the show, and the page is updated with a subscriber edition label, so they clearly see that they have access to the premium experience. As the listeners subscribe to more channels, the Listen Now tab expands with new rows to provide easy access to all subscription content. Listeners who subscribe to 2 or more channels will also see My Channels and then the Listen Now tab. So yeah, they decided to roll this out. I don't know if I'll be participating in this anytime soon, and then I don't know if any others will be as well, because one of the downfalls to the podcast subscriptions is you have to have separate feeds for your podcast in order for it to be maintaining all this. So just what we need, extra work, but will it be monetized? Apple's still taking their 30%. Warren, what do you think about this?
I think Facebook just launched their subscription thing too for podcasts. So this is going to be a thing.
That's the next story.
Oh, just combine them. This is the same thing. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, I guess this is a thing now to monetize podcasts, which is good. I mean, it's even if it doesn't work, you have the possibility to try it. And as far as recording different streams, does that mean you have to record different shows for each service? Or no, how does that work? You
can do the same show, but you have to have a separate feed in order to supply that. I think I haven't seen what Facebook's plan is yet, but Facebook also, another article there from 9 to 5 Mac, they're going to be launching their own platform next week. This was actually reported by The Verge, that podcast creators are going to be able to have a new podcast page that will go live. So this is not for pay. This is actually another place to actually put your podcast. Holden, you being a podcaster, what do you guys think of this? Have you been exploring this at all?
In terms of the Apple podcast subscriptions, we really haven't looked into it. And Facebook, no. I don't know. I guess we'll put our podcast there. I'm not a Facebook fan. I guess we'll put our podcast there, but I just don't think people trust Facebook enough for them to start using more of their services like this. So it kind of remains to be seen.
Well, I have a In Touch with iOS page that many follow, and we appreciate that. And so we do generate some traffic, and Twitter as well. It's hard not to actually be on social media. Brian, you have any thoughts on this? You're a podcast listener, right? And
yeah,
would you pay for it?
Probably not. Only because with everyone still kind of working remotely. I mean, my podcast listening time was my commute, and I don't really have a commute anymore. So I have to say that I have not really been listening to any podcasts aside from this one, of course, Dave, and, Holden's podcast. And, so probably not, although I'm kind of interested to see how it plays out. Yeah, I'm not a big fan of Facebook either, but why wouldn't they jump in,
I hadn't thought about the social media aspect of like you have the page for Touch and iOS, having your community in a place where they can listen at the same time. Yeah, does kind of make sense. I hadn't considered that.
Yeah, wait till Twitter's podcast subscriptions come out, and Instagrams and Snapchats. It's just going to snowball from here, I'm sure.
You're going to be able to. Definitely going to be able to.
You can make
on some of those platforms.
You can make nothing times like 10 on all these platforms.
Yeah, exactly. So, Dave, explain something to me though. You said multiple feeds. Does that mean you have to have a different host for each?
No, it means that you have to go to Apple's podcast subscriptions feed and provide the content there as well as on your normal. So like in my case, I don't know what you guys use, Holden, but I use Libsyn. So Libsyn is my host for the podcast, and that's how the RSS feed goes out each week. And but people want to be able to consume it, not only online, but on their iOS devices and all the podcast catchers that are out there, many of choice. My favorite as of late has been Pocket Casts, and there's also Downcast, and there's also so I'm not mentioning the Apple Podcasts app because it's not great. It really isn't. It's gotten better, but it's just, and that's the thing with these. The only way you'll be able to listen to these paid podcasts is by using the Apple Podcasts app. So, but then I go look at we go look at our my numbers in the Apple Podcasts app, other than actually listening to it in the browser, is the top 2 of people, the way people listen to this podcast. So it's hard to beat it. It's just kind of like with Facebook. I mean, it's hard to beat the billions of eyeballs that are out there. And Warren, of course, is a big Facebook person because of Back to the Future and enjoys Facebook. But there's nothing wrong with that. I'm on Facebook every day. So
you left out my mom. That's why I'm that's why originally. Yeah, that's why we're on it originally. So.
Oh, your Facebook, okay. Yes, until Back to the Future came along.
No, then I stopped posting on my timeline. People thought I died. It was a whole thing.
That's right. So it's going to be interesting to see where this goes. I mean, more and more things are going to be happening with paid subscriptions, and more small pieces of that puzzle, and then we'll just see how it goes. I mean, I'd be interested to see. Again, like I said, Apple takes 30% of that, so that's a pretty big chunk.
What bugs me is that they also charge $20 a year to offer subscriptions to the podcast app, which seems, why do that if you're going to take a 30% cut as well? Like, you would think the 30% cut would easily cover everything.
Right. Yeah, it's
$20, really?
Yeah, per year, yeah.
That's messed up.
Yeah, so it's going to be interesting to see where it goes, but it is Apple. The next story, Apple CEO Tim Cook, sideloading apps would destroy the security of the iPhone. Tim Cook participated in a virtual interview at the Viva Tech Conference, which is described as Europe's biggest startup and tech event. Cook was interviewed, and he was interviewed by the CEO and founder of Root, a media company that creates short-form video content. And much of the discussion centered on privacy, of course, because Apple was really big on privacy, obviously with DubDub. And Cook does participate, but he did say that they've been focusing on privacy for over a decade. We see it as a basic human right, and a lot of the things we know as far as the views go. And we talked about this on Mac to the Future Goal yesterday, right, Warren, and we had a bit of a debate. Is sideloading going to be something that Apple would ever consider supporting? I don't think so. But they also could force their hand, and the governments could say, "Hey, you have to." What do you think, Warren?
I don't like what I said yesterday, but I'm kind of still on the idea that if they were forced to do this, then they would fundamentally change iOS, possibly in a way where maybe the sideload, it's almost like a virtual machine in iOS that separates it from the iOS. So if you install an app outside from the Apple Store, it would sort of go on its own kind of partition, so it doesn't affect the operating system. And this way, they could still say, "Listen, our stuff is secure. We're allowing you to see these apps, but they're running a separate version of iOS."
Yeah. Brian, what do you think anything about this? Do you think it's a good thing that they would allow side loading of apps?
I think it's a terrible idea. And I think that the amount of iPhone users who even know what side loading is, I mean, nobody wants this aside from a very vocal minority. And that's it. They're making a big deal about it. But, if you have 1 billion iPhones out there, I'd say, I mean, that's a lot you're opening up simply to appease a very small amount of people. So I think it's a terrible idea. I don't want the ability on my phone. It's just, I think Tim Cook's right. I don't think this is, something that they should ever consider unless they're forced to. But
any thoughts on that, Holden?
I mean, I 100% agree. I have an iPhone and I use Macs, Apple products generally, because I want the privacy, I want the security. Right. And if it feels like a lot of this conversation, to kind of Warren's point, they have to fundamentally change what iOS is. So it's kind of like, well, people bought into iOS for this reason. It's the reason people get iOS is I don't have to think about it. It's going to be secure. It's going to be private, and I can feel comfortable in that. And I kind of feel like regulation saying, no, well, you can't do that. People can't buy it for that reason. It just seems very strange to me.
I think there'd be a lot of backlash.
I agree. Yeah, so I'd be very upset. I bought an iPhone for that reason.
Exactly. And then you go back here, and then the Congress here decides they want to vote on a new antitrust package that wants 0 Apple pre-installed apps on the iPhone. Okay.
Yeah.
Last week, a Democratic representative from your fine home state of Rhode Island, David
Cicilline. Yeah. Let me tell you about him.
Yeah. Introduced a new antitrust reform legislation that would prohibit Apple from pre-installing its own apps. This is according to a report from Bloomberg. He's saying that proposals prohibiting tech platforms from giving an advantage to their own products over those of the competitor would mean Apple can't swipe devices with pre-installed apps on its own iOS operating platform.
Doesn't every operating system come with the pre-installed apps? Why would this just be Apple?
Yeah, exactly.
It's anybody.
What about the phone app? Like, what do you do?
You can't pre-install the phone app. It's a phone.
Yeah, you buy it, you take it out of the box, and you've got a blank screen. And everyone's like, okay, now what do I do? Can they not install the App Store on there? So it's like no Apple apps at all. So you just get a blank screen. No phone.
How do you get the apps if there's no App Store?
Exactly. I have been thinking about this, though. Yeah. And one thing Apple could do to get around this, if their hand was ever forced, would be during the setup process, say, hey, do you want to automatically download these apps and have them installed during the setup process? And maybe even give the user the choice to select which ones they want.
If you don't want the phone, it won't install. Then you just want the phone.
Exactly. I do that, as Holden knows. I love talking on the phone.
But as you just said earlier with this gentleman from Rhode Island, should we consider the source?
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to get too political on here, but let's just say that he probably has trouble spelling his name.
I would too.
This is his thing, though. This is what he does. He's a troublemaker. I think he sticks his nose into things he knows nothing about, and doesn't necessarily understand what he's saying. I think. I mean, if you brought him on the show, I'm sure he couldn't tell you one thing about the iPhone and how it works.
And I think most House representatives and senators, for that matter, are probably in that same boat. So, like I said, consider the source.
Yeah.
And even more antitrust complaints. Sonos has complained about Apple's restrictions on third-party Siri access in an antitrust hearing. This was on Tuesday, as we record this. Sonos is participating in a antitrust hearing on the smart home, where Sonos legal chief Eddie Lazarus has some commentary to share on the smart home market and the dominance of companies like Apple, Google, and Amazon. And of course, headed up by Amy Klobuchar, the subcommittee, in antitrust of in consumer rights. She's just been leading up to this whole crazy stuff about antitrust, and are these three companies controlling things? And I mean, it's a market that's wide open right now. I mean, you have Amazon, you have Google, and you have Apple. I mean, they're all having their own same ecosystems. They're all doing the same stuff, but each of them can do their own thing. I mean, Sonos is already participating with the Sonos Move, which I own, with having the Amazon Echo built into it. But it also supports Google and also supports Apple. So, I mean, where is their antitrust here? I don't know. What do you think, Brian? I think this is a little crazy.
Well, antitrust, I think, has a much different meaning now than it did back, say, in the 90s when Microsoft went through their whole antitrust thing.
Right,
it just
Explorer.
Yeah, and bundling that with Windows. I mean, it's just they're looking for places to, just, I think, cause trouble. I mean, there's really no reason. It used to be, and I could be wrong, I don't claim to be an expert in any of this, but antitrust to me says, hey, this company's a monopoly and we need to do something about it to level out the playing field, right? I don't see Apple having a monopoly in anything, aside from maybe their own ecosystem, which they created and they fund and they, but I don't see where they have a monopoly in anything. And of course, you go back 30 years and to even think that Apple would have a monopoly someday is just funny to think about, So really I don't get it.
What do you think of this, Warren? We talked about this yesterday, but
my thought now is the Sonos should calm down because Siri could barely work with Apple stuff. So
that's right.
That's a good point.
And most people just control the HomePod with their phone, anyways, and it doesn't really matter in that case because you could stream whatever. You could stream your Sonos stuff to. You could stream Amazon Music, whatever you want. So. It's a silly idea. It's a silly thing, is what I think.
Yeah, I mean, Sonos has its market. So does all the other speaker makers. Any thought?
They're doing well. So I mean, it's it's not like they really
their stock is doing well. I mean, I'm a stockholder of Sonos. I think it's a small stock, but they're doing very well.
Yeah.
Any thoughts, Holden?
The whole antitrust thing with Apple, I've been taking a really close look at it since the whole Epic Apple thing. And the whole thing irritates me because I feel like kind of what, my dad was talking about earlier with like a lot of these politicians just don't know what they're talking about. Mm-mm. And there's no way that you can look at the Apple situation and say, oh, they're a monopoly who's abused their position to get where they are. It's actually the opposite. They've had this very closed ecosystem. It's been the defining aspect of Apple for decades, and they've grown because of that. Not that they rose up and then started locking things down when they had this monopoly position. It's like the opposite of how monopolies traditionally act, and yet there's all these lawsuits against them. It doesn't make any sense to me at all. It just seems completely illogical.
We must be missing something.
We must be. But
all I'll say is there's a lot of these companies, Sonos included, is in something called the Coalition for App Fairness, which is a lobbying group that goes after these politicians. And ever since I've read their website, the Coalition for App Fairness, these politicians literally just verbatim repeat what is on that website. And it is nothing but a bunch of big companies getting together to lobby these politicians. It is crazy. I read like Epic's lawsuit, and even that has Epic's, the company who actually founded the Coalition for App Fairness. It's the same talking points in their legal case that they used against Apple. It's the same thing politicians are saying, because this is just lobbying, and this isn't a David versus Goliath. This is Goliath versus Goliath, and that's all this really is.
Sure is. Let's politics. Let's move on to something lighter. Games. Apple. I got the pop up, so I had to go find the article. Find out about this. That's some Mac rumors. Angry Birds Reloaded is coming back. Doodle God Universe, Alto's Odyssey, The Lost City coming to Apple Arcade. Apple had a head start already, as we talked about previous, some that added some of the classic games like the Oregon Trail and others to the Apple Arcade catalog. Today, they announced 3 new games that are coming in the near future, so they're teasing you. So all 3 of those games are going to be offered, and then it pops up and says, you got the notification that says, oh, you can install it. I'm like, so I tapped it and said, oh no, this is just putting you in place to notify you when it's available. But they did send out these notices through Twitter today, which is kind of interesting. And those interested in playing them when they're launched on Apple Arcade will be, like I said, you sign up and you'll be notified, and then you'll be able to jump on it. Angry Birds, though, the craze of Angry Birds, are any of you guys subscribers to the arcade? I don't think you are, Warren. No, Warren, you are, because you have the bundle.
Yeah, I'm in the bundle, but to be honest, I was excited when they released the first round a couple months ago.
Yeah,
and that lasted for about 3 weeks, I guess, and I haven't really played again since then. So
yeah. I played Oregon Trail for a little bit, and then it's like, okay. Yeah.
Well, I was excited.
I got my memorabilia.
I like the song pop because I used to play song. I played it online, and there were so many ads, and I liked it. And there wasn't a lot of people there. That was an issue at first, and then I just kind of stopped. So.
The Holden, obviously you're doing a gaming podcast. I don't know. This is probably not the types of games you guys are playing, but it's interesting to see where Apple Arcade does go with this, and getting more and more titles.
Yeah, absolutely. I think this is a better method to get subscribers than Apple has done in the past with Apple Arcade, which was having... They've always had high-quality games in Apple Arcade. Like, for mobile games, they're very high quality. But, like, What's the Golf? Which is actually, when that came out, one of my favorite games of the year, regardless of console. That game is hysterical. Yeah. But it's hard to say, like, oh, you should get Apple Arcade. There's a really funny golf game you should play. It's a really hard sell. But if you say, like, hey, you can go back and get classics like Angry Bird or Cut the Rope, or if you don't even play those kind of games, you want a good Sudoku app, you want a good crossword puzzle app, it's nice to have those more familiar options, and then people can kind of explore from there and find some of the other ones. I'm personally very happy that Threes is available on there, because I think Threes is one of the best games ever made, not even just on mobile, but ever made. It's awesome. And it's there. And so there's a lot of really great experiences, but I just think that... I don't know. I think that people like Angry Birds in particular, I think is a little too old. I don't think it has that same pull that some of the other apps they brought on have. Yeah.
Brian, did you play many of these games, or you're that's not your thing?
Huge Angry Birds.
No, fan. I used to like to play Tetris and Breakout on my Palm Pilot.
Your Palm Pilot. I remember that.
I was playing that. I was on my Game Boy at the
Game Boy.
On the Game Boy.
I did. I think the last video game console or device I bought for myself was in probably like 1990, the original Game Boy, and I played Final Fantasy and probably like Zelda or something.
I'm talking about
it turned into my Game Boy.
My Game Boy was
no, you didn't get that one.
I got the black and white one.
Okay.
The black and white one, the original Game Boy.
Oh yeah,
yeah, with Tetris on it, and I used to see the blocks on the ceiling because I looked at it so much. Yeah.
Yep. I used to work in a call center, and that's what we did. We'd sit.
It was like the Queen's Gambit
Game
with
Boy
Tetris.
while you're waiting for calls.
Yeah. That's exactly what we did. We all bought Game Boys, and we would just sit there and play.
Yep.
So. But no, I don't play many games. I mean, of course, I played Angry Birds and Cut the Rope and Doodle Jump and all those back like 10 years ago. But I leave that to professionals like Holden, so.
The new Cut the Rope they have, or the remastered Cut the Rope they have on Apple Arcade is very good, actually.
Yeah. They need to get Words with Friends so I don't have to see the ads, because I play that all the
time. That would be a really good get for them. Yeah, but Zynga would never go for it.
Yeah. Yep. But that's what they need. Like you said, they need a killer app. Really, and they don't have it.
Yeah,
and like an Xbox has a Call of Duty, and that's why people kind of they need something that people talk about and say, listen, you have to get it for the $5 a month.
Yeah, they need like an Animal Crossing or something, something like that,
or the do the Pokemon thing again and just do it better or something.
Yeah, actually, on the note of Animal Crossing, I don't think it'd be a bad idea to work with Nintendo and say, hey, Nintendo, make a game exclusive. Yeah. To Apple Arcade. I mean, Nintendo probably wouldn't do that because they like to keep things. They're very much like Apple, keep things to themselves. But I mean, you can go to any other mobile company and that makes good games and probably get something pretty big. Sony, I know, wants to make mobile games now, and if you get some of those Sony franchises on Apple Arcade, that could be a big seller.
Right, but the problem is here that Apple's going to have to pay Nintendo to do this, and they're going to have to pay a lot. to do that. And then
they
they're
might
still
not be able to afford it.
But that's the problem. They're still only charging. Well,
just buy Nintendo.
Right.
Trillions.
They could afford it, but they're
$1 trillion.
But the subscription price doesn't change, so they're not making any more money in it. That's the problem. So if they did that, they would have to raise the price of the Apple Arcade.
Yeah. Yeah. No, you're right. You're right.
So at least 3 of 4 of us here are Arcade subscribers. So sort of.
Yeah. I mean, I am. I have it, but I thought maybe the kids would use it, but they don't.
Part of the bundle.
Yeah.
Well, they have the Switch, and if you're going to play a game on your phone or the Switch is much more engrossing.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, true.
So, all right, let's move on and talk about Apple TV Plus. Well, the party's over. The free trial is now reduced from 1 year to 3 months, starting July 1st. For quite a while now. It's well over a year. The Apple's giving a free 1 year trial of Apple TV Plus with any iPhone, iPad, Mac, or Apple Watch purchase, even an Apple TV. That promotion is now ending on June 30th as we record this. It's a couple of weeks away here. And Apple has updated the website to show that from July 1st on, the included free trial will be shrunk to 3 months on eligible purchases. And they've been offering different promotions and credit and all that fun stuff. But you know what, Ted Lasso, all I gotta say is Ted Lasso. That show is freaking awesome.
Right. It's unbelievably great.
I think I'm gonna go back and watch it again. I mean,
I was on there right away the first season.
Yeah. You in fact, you start. I didn't know about it right away.
I got you and Guy into it. I told you guys to watch it.
On it. Yeah, yep. I'm like completely hooked. And then our friend Kelly Gamon's doing a podcast. They're rewatching all the episodes and spending a long hour and a half recapping each episode each week.
I did it twice. I watched the series twice. So yeah,
I got to go back and watch because to see it. July 23rd. But they've been very generous with Apple TV Plus because even when we signed up, I think you got the same credit I did, Warren, I signed up for the full bundle package, and they're giving me a $4.99 credit. Had been for the last few months after I had signed back up. So it's
crazy. Like, I don't even know what I had because between the stuff I purchased and then I did subscribe to it at one point, and then I got the bundle. I don't even think Apple knew what I had, so they were sending me money back, and I was sending them money, and it was So I'm assuming I still have it because I have the bundle at this point. So I'm
sure. Yeah. So all right, so you're gonna be paying up, but you know what? We pay $29.95 for the bundle. That's the premier bundle that gives you everything, and I'm pretty happy with it. And I'm sharing with my family, so they're getting to enjoy it. And they're sharing a little bit in the wealth of it as well, so I'm not complaining.
I think I'm saving about $10 a month.
Yeah, exactly.
With all this, because I get the 2 terabyte storage and all that other stuff. And I think I figured I'm saving about $10 a month. So
yeah, for sure. So next story, Mac rumors. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
I was going to say 3 months is still a really long trial too. Like, this is still unbelievable value.
Yeah.
I forgot to ask if we're all getting our money's worth out of the Fitness Plus.
Do you want me to flex? I'll show you that I am.
Well, you look at me. I'm getting my money's worth.
Have you even launched the app? That's the question.
I'm scared to actually launch it because
I have launched it.
It's going to be like
you might be wanting to do some of that Tai Chi.
It's going to make me sweat just by opening the app at this point.
All right, let's go ahead and move on here. Next story on Mac rumors, Apple maintains 5G market lead in the quarter 1 of 2021, despite the Vivo and Samsung gains. Apple shipped an estimated 40.4 million iPhone 12 devices during the first quarter of 2021. Wow, that's amazing. According to new data shared by Strategy Analytics, the figure suggests Apple has maintained its grip on the global 5G smartphone market, despite indicating a 23% dip compared to the fourth quarter of 2020. Where Apple's, just shipped a mere 52.2 million units. But Apple's been enjoying booming sales in the 5G market in the last 3 months following the launch in the first 5G equipped iPhone models. But since then, the rivals have upped their game. And of course, they're giving some premium here. So it's good, some good numbers. I mean, I think 5G has still got a little ways to go yet when it comes to the towers that are around and taking advantage of the speeds. Brian, what do you think of this of 5G?
I have an iPhone 12, so I have 5G, and I think you get to a certain speed, and I mean coverage is great. I'm on T-Mobile, and the coverage has been great. The speeds have been great, but I kind of feel like it's like with money after, a certain speed. I mean, do you really notice that much of a difference?
No. Well, good thing is T-Mobile's including it.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, I'm not surprised that they have the lead. They jumped on this. There hasn't been any issues. It hasn't caused more people to get COVID. So that's good, I guess, right?
Well, you can't prove that.
Well, then there's someone at the door.
Any thoughts on that, Holden?
To kind of repeat the point from earlier, like, I don't know how many people actually have access to 5G.
Yeah.
So it's, I mean, even you did, like, you have access to 5G, but is that the real 5G, like the ultra band 5G?
Yeah.
Is it? Okay.
I don't. I've
Not ultra band. There's a number of bands. We can get technical on that, but
all I know is that on my phone it says 5G at the top. That's it.
It's not 5G W or whatever AT&T was doing.
But I'll tell you,
I'll
tell you one thing. That my wife has an 11, and I have the 12 of 5G. And there's times that she gets better service than I get, better data speeds than I get. So
we're at a point with 5G that reminds me. I think with the iPhone 5S, they started doing HSPA plus, and AT&T tried to say that was 4G. So on the top of an iPhone, it would say 4G up there, and they had to change it because it wasn't really 4G. And I feel like that's where we are with 5G right now. Is we're in this like transitional technology that sure is faster than 4G, depending on your coverage and if you have good coverage there or not. But ultra band is the real. That's going to be the real game changer. But it's going to be so hard to implement that nationally because of its low range and all that. So I don't know. We're a ways away from 5G. I think.
I thought I had the real 5G. You're telling me I don't have the real 5G.
You don't have the real 5G.
I'm returning it. You get a Samsung phone instead.
Yeah,
those do have the real 5G. Yeah.
Do they really?
No.
Yeah.
Okay. Because that wouldn't be enough to make me switch.
The real 5G causes COVID.
It does, which is why I'm glad I don't have it. Yeah.
Exactly.
And then last story here. The Beats Studio Buds, all of a sudden, I know there was a sneak peek because LeBron James happened to be wearing them, and people caught that.
Wow.
They are 9 to 5 Mac here. Yeah, whoopee. 9 to 5 Mac here did a comparison against the AirPods and the AirPods Pro. Of course, the Beats are going to be much cheaper, about $100 below the AirPods Pro, and they do come with noise reduction too. These Studio Buds, so they did a comparison. This I haven't had a lot of chance to really look at this and find if there's any real value between these here. The Beats Studio Buds have full wireless. They're in-ear fit with the 3 tip sizes. Comes in 3 colors, but it doesn't have a wireless charging case. So you see they're doing some comparisons here. Interesting. It's Apple's competing against themselves basically because this is their product.
That's where I don't understand. I mean, at what point do they drop Beats? I actually never thought in a million years I would buy a pair of Beats, but I did because they were like, it was the Beats Solo Pro, I think it's the over-the-ear ones. Yeah. They were like dirt cheap at Best Buy, and I wanted noise canceling over-the-ear headphones, and I thought, okay, well, this is my chance to try them, and they're great. I love them, and my devices see them in the same exact way that they see AirPods. You get the same kind of pop-ups, you get the same options.
Yeah.
It's if you're looking at it from a software point of view, they're AirPods. That's all they are. So why the different brand names? I don't know.
There is, I think, one important difference that I found in the article here is ear detection isn't. I don't know about your Solos, but at least for the Studio Buds, there's no ear detection. So if you take them in and out, they're not going to pause and play the music and do all that. Right. And they don't do the auto device switching. But outside of that, you're right. They're just basically AirPods.
Which I disable. I hate the autos device switching.
Yeah, but my Beats Solos do the air like if I take them off, it pauses and it does switch devices. Like it will, like if I go from my iPad to my Mac, it'll pop up just like the AirPods do.
I think I had the U1 chip in it, and I think that's why.
It also it charges with a lightning connector too. So
all I can say is the four of us look pretty silly with these white things sticking out of our ears, and the new Beats have they're like fully in ear.
They're fully in ear, right?
And you could get them in black, and that would actually look a lot better than how we look with these.
These are like
I'm a headphone crazed person. I'm looking at least three, 4 pairs sitting in my office here. So, and plus the 3 pairs of AirPods here. So,
wow.
Crazy. I have AirPods and 1 pair of AirPods Pro, but
you need more ears.
Yeah. So
I like the little stem just because it makes it easier to take it in and out. I don't want to dig into my ear to get something out.
Yeah, it's easier to grab them. So
yeah,
I agree.
I'll make something on Amazon to pull them out for you. So.
All right, let's go ahead and move on to the topics of the week here. There was some good stories this week. So Warren, tell us your story about Lola and the AirTag.
All right, I'll make it quick. But I bought a 4-pack when it came out. 2 went to my dogs. 1 to Lola, 1 to Charlie. So I noticed, like last week, that Lola's AirTag would only update the location maybe every few hours. Long story short, so I was going to unpair it, repair it. So first of all, this is I'm going to show you a few things. This is easy. Share screen. Okay. So this is Lola. If you can see her. All right. So that's Lola. And
for those of you watching the live stream here, of course, you listening are not seeing this, but
so let me stop that. So that's Lola. So we did that. So I took it off, and before it was in the Apple case, which is this one. So that's the case I got for it. All right.
It's okay.
You see it? Okay. Anyways, so this is what it looks like now.
It's mangled.
It's mangled.
Looks like she did some biting.
She did. Bring it up. This is up front.
There we go. Look at that!
Wow.
Nice. And this,
we're looking at a very tooth riddled AirTag there. That's just the back, the white part, the back part of it. But the silver part, didn't it come disassembled a little bit?
Yeah, I'm going to show you that real fast.
Wonder how it tasted.
We were worried. My wife's like, you could have her, she could swallow the battery. I'm like, let me tell you about the battery stories.
Battery is in there.
Yeah. All right, this is what it looked like on the back.
Oh, wow.
So
yeah, it's a pretty mangled metal.
Yeah. So in any case, it still beeped, but after I unpaired it, it wouldn't pair back to my account, no matter what I did. And there's an article, in case anybody needs to do it. There's an article to reset your AirPods, and the way you do it real fast is take the battery out, put the battery in, make it beep, take it out, do that 5 times, and then put it back on, and it's supposed to reset it. Never did it. So I had Apple support on chat, got disconnected 3 times, got with a senior advisor that said, he said, go out of Bluetooth range of your other devices and try it again. I'm like, how am I going to do it? Where am I going to go? I'm not going to in my car. So he disconnected, they all disconnected on me. So I made a Genius Bar appointment for Monday. I'm going to bring in my one. I'm going to bring in my one AirTag. This is just out of spite at this point, just out of anger for Apple, because it's only $30. I'll probably just get another 4-pack anyways. But so we'll see what they say. Now, are they going to say it's physical damage and that's why it stopped working, or are they going to say something else? We'll find
Guaranteed.
out.
That's what they'll say. Guaranteed. They'll look at those bite marks and just be like, "Oh, it's got to be that. We can't run any diagnostics, so it's got to be that." Guaranteed it's going to happen.
It still beeps and everything. It's still, it works somehow. But
like I posted in Back to the Future earlier today, it says, we warned you that Apple warns that you shouldn't be using your AirTag for your dog.
I don't think that's the reason they said that, but yes, okay.
For liability, I think there was really... the reasoning on that, don't you think?
Yeah, I'll let you know how it goes on Monday because I'm curious. I'm going to really go through with it too.
What Apple should do is what Nintendo does with the Switch cartridges, which is they actually make them taste terrible.
Yeah,
like try to like lick a Switch cartridge, try to eat it. Like it's revolting.
Yeah,
it's really nasty. So dogs will just spit it out. Babies will spit it out.
My dog eats my dog eats crap, like little crap. So she'll eat it.
I don't think that's going to deter a dog from eating it. Maybe someone like me. You tried one, right, Holden? You've actually.
I did. I actually did try to. I licked a Switch cartridge to see what it was like, and it is. Okay. It stays with you too. It's repulsive. It was there for like at least an hour.
Ugh.
It was really bad. I'm exaggerating,
wow. But that's kind of crazy that they would have to do that. What does that say about us as a species? Each game has a different putrid flavor. That's
I was going to say it was a Frogger.
Yeah. It's Birdie Bot's ever flavor beans of Switch games.
Yeah. All right, let's go ahead and talk about beta this week. We're doing dual betas here because Apple's been doing this a lot lately, which is kind of crazy, but okay. They seeded the third beta of iOS 4 and iPadOS 14.7 to developers. It's I believe it's out in the public now too, and there is no other changes on it. And I can't ask Warren what there is because he's on iOS 15. So
I'm going to be doing this. I did this last year. It's just getting upset that every time they come up with the beta for the old operating system than the one I'm on, and just kind of like I think they did it on alternating week at some point, right? They're going to start doing that's what they're going to do, the iOS 15 beta one week, and then it's going to be the iOS 14 beta until they finish it out. So,
well, we wanted to see if this is going to be the final version other than just the .1, .2 incrementals for any fixes. But they're saying just some under hood bug performance improvements, bug fixes that weren't addressed in the 14.6. But there might be there could be a few minor features, but there's nothing else. The big thing was with the Home app and being able to set multiple timers with the HomePod or the HomePod Mini. That's been discussed with that. So, but iOS 15, of course, whole nother animal. So, and again, iOS 15 is still in beta for developers only. So you cannot get onto iOS 15 unless you have a developer's account. You can. You can, and so far, how's iOS 15 been for you? Now you've had it for 2 weeks.
It's actually not bad. I have one semi-important app that doesn't open. Other than that, it actually fixed a problem I had with the old operating systems. You know how you could create a shortcut on your home screen to a shortcut. You could create an icon on your screen for a shortcut. I have one that changes my wallpaper. I think we talked about that once, where you can actually change the icon. And the shortcut for half the time worked and half the time failed. So it bothered me. And now iOS 15 it works. So it fixed a couple things like that. Even on the iPad OS, I put it back on 15. It runs well. It's not the fastest.
Pretty stable.
Yeah, my battery hasn't really changed that much. Maybe a little bit on the watch. The battery went down a little bit, but other than battery on the watch, I haven't noticed any difference on it.
So battery life on the watch has been not so good?
It's been a little worse, but not. I think, iOS. I don't remember what iOS, but there was one where the watch would go from like 100 to 0 and
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, it was crazy. Same with the phone. I was at WWDC. I went once and I did the beta on my phone, and I had to go to find a T-Mobile shop to buy a battery pack for it. I couldn't even get through half the day of it. So, but it's good. I'm using the picture to text feature, the text to picture feature.
Yeah, live text.
Yep, I'm doing that. The notifications are funny. Sometimes they don't work really well. I get there's a thing now where if you leave your AirTag behind, it will tell you that you're separated from it. But I found that it doesn't. Sometimes it works the opposite. It says you left your dog back there when you're halfway to the beach house, and you look there, and the dog's right in the back seat. So it's not quite there yet. So it scares you a little bit. But those are fun, and I haven't played with the focus stuff yet, which is something I kind of should get into because I hear it's pretty good.
It's really good.
Yeah.
The focus stuff is really good.
So you're running it, Brian, on your iPhone or just your iPad?
Just my iPad. I don't have it on my iPhone yet, but the focus feature is great because I use my iPad for writing mostly, or it's one of the things I use it for. And I can create a focus that's called writing, and it actually lets you create a home screen for that focus. So I have a home screen with some widgets and the apps I use when I write, and everything else goes away. It's just that home screen. And then when I take it off, everything comes back. It works really, really well.
Great.
I'm really, it's been super, knock on wood, super stable on my iPad Air. So
that's like great.
I've got to run it on my first gen.
If you're at work and you can only show stuff you use at work, that's awesome.
Yeah, it's great. It's really well done, I think.
Holden, are you running any beta?
I'm doing just the iPad version, which I primarily did just so I can have a consistent app library and widget experience across my iOS devices.
Did you see the meme? There's a meme that says iPad OS 15 is just iOS 14.
Yeah. So far, that's definitely been my experience with it. I haven't done too much with the focus, but I love the new multitasking features. I think they are really, really strong. It just feels easier to multitask and get to apps that I don't have in my dock, and I think it's a more fluid experience. I like it a lot. I do have a problem with performance. I've noticed in the past week or so where sometimes it won't respond to touch input at all, and I have to basically what I have to do is drag my finger all around the screen, and then it starts responding again.
What model? What do you have? Which iPad?
Air 3.
Okay.
Yeah. So
I have the Air 4.
I have the M1 and it rips.
I can imagine. I can imagine. Do you have the 12 or the 11?
I have the 12. I went with the 12.
So you have the mini,
the XDR display.
It's nice. I mean, I had to get, Dave and I had the 2018 11-inch, and the screen, I mean, it's nice, but it's not hugely noticeable. The old Pros and the Air 3 that you have really nice screens, so you could barely really tell.
So a couple of things. I had a bit of a list here, but we're not going to get through them all this week. A couple things just to make sure I mentioned that we talked about this before. Yeah, iOS 15 is compatible to amazingly going all the way back to the 6S and 6S Plus, but you have to have at least a 10S or a 10R or newer. For most of these great features that they were talking about. I have an article in the show notes about this, and specifically things like live text isn't going to work on a device that isn't a 10R or 10S or higher because the processor just can't handle it. So a lot of these things stand out. Visual lookup, interactive globe, 3D city experience in maps, spatial audio in FaceTime, portrait mode in FaceTime. So just be aware of that. I mean, be excited that your older device is going to be compatible with iOS 15, but you're going to be at the limitations as far as what new features you'll be able to utilize. So, but a couple things that kind of stood out. I wanted to kind of talk about this because it's been kind of you get online and you see a lot of people complaining that Apple just very disappointed with Apple. We didn't release all the things that we really need this thing to do with iPad OS, but get over it. I mean, it's going to get there. I think it's going to get fine. The first article I've got here as a top thing here, and I talked about this yesterday too on Mac to the Future, is the fact that the File app is now gaining NTFS support, progress indicator, and more. The ability of being able now to be able to connect in, and for those of us, Brian and I both work in the enterprise, so to be able to take a drive here that's NTFS and be able to plug it into an iPad and be able to get the files off of that device is pretty awesome. I mean, they really finally have added some great support with that. Same thing with the progress indicator. You never knew when the darn files were copying from the external device to there. Now you're going to have an actual progress indicator that's actually going to show you that you can at least copy that data and be able to get to it and see it, what the progress is. So it's pretty awesome. And then the other thing that was noticeable in the Files app, if you're using a mouse or a trackpad, it's now possible to click and hold and drag selection box over multiple files and perform batch actions such as compress. So you can compress now, just like being on a Mac, being able to compress a file, move them, copy them, and so on. And then you also can use the groups option as a view option and on the fly create groups. I've got the Magic Keyboard. That's going to be something that's nice. What do you think, Brian? I mean, I think this could be a game changer for us where we work, and potentially people using iPads and be able to securely have files on an NTFS formatted device.
Yeah, it's great. I mean, the executives in the company that we work for, they all use iPads. They use the 12-inch iPads with the Magic Keyboards and self-service, and it does everything they need it to do. But now, I mean, they're getting all this additional stuff. I mean, I think from an enterprise standpoint, I think you're going to see now, like in our company, it's really just executive, vice presidents, but you're going to see it start to come down, I think, to more of the standard, everyday workers. And at some point, it'd be very possible for someone to use it as their sole work device. I know there are people in IT that do use it as their primary device. So it is possible. I mean, just the fact, too, that you can actually I can drag a chunk of text from one app to another without even using multitasking. It's pretty incredible. It's amazing how they've done it, and they've done it without resorting really to making it too Mac-like. They're really keeping the iPad as its own thing. And I think that's frustrating for some people because they want a touch-based Mac, and it's just never going to happen. Yeah. If they want a touch-based Mac, that's kind of what the iPad is, Yeah. Exactly. So choose one or the other.
Warren, do you think you find any value of some of these features of the file management? They're getting better?
Yeah, definitely. I went with that Logitech keyboard that Apple's selling, and I got the new iPad, so you always go through the test. Can this replace my laptop? I've tried. It's doing better than it has been. So it's getting almost to the point where I could probably get by on an iPad for work or life for at least a little bit more than before. So yeah, it's getting better. And we had, we talked about this on with Guy on one of the shows. Is do you want like a unified operating system? If the more the iPad turns into Mac, and the more the Mac turns into iPad, kind of too, with the way it looks and opening up iOS apps and things like that. Where's the end point? And Microsoft again tried to make one operating system for everything. It didn't work because it just doesn't. Some things just don't work right on a small screen, and that's it. I mean, if you put a Mac OS on an 11-inch iPad, is that going to really be comfortable for you? Or are you going to be able to navigate that? So it has to be different.
That's a good point. These commercials that Microsoft has where they try and pit the Surface up against, and I mean, Dave, you've had a Surface. I have a Surface. Holden, I think you have one too. They're really great devices. They're terrible tablets.
Yep.
They're just keyboardless Windows machines. And Microsoft thinks that's a great idea, but you try and use touch on Windows 10, it's terrible. Especially if you're used to using an iOS device where the targets are much bigger, the multi-touch is much more precise. It's built from the ground up, and Microsoft's style of doing things is let's take something that exists and cram this feature into it and make it work, and it just doesn't. I
have a Windows laptop that could fold over now and become a tablet. I've never once wanted to do that.
And it's the same thing with Chrome OS. Chrome OS is terrible as a tablet. And I don't know why they think that the compromise is good enough. It's not,
It's
as
not.
far as
But
I'm concerned.
I keep my Surface plugged in to my monitor at all times. I have tried to do some code review and read over something in Visual Studio, and just by swiping through it, I don't even like reading things that way on it, and like swiping through a page. It just doesn't feel right. It feels very off. And the iPad is way better as a computer replacement than the Surface is as a tablet.
Yeah, that's 100% true.
And the Surface really isn't a tablet. I mean,
No.
It's not. If
They want you to think it is, but it's not.
Right. Yeah. It's a computer with a. It's a computer. It's a laptop. It has it's basically if I took my MacBook Air and was able to detach the keyboard, would the MacBook Air become a tablet at that point? No.
According to Microsoft, it would. Yeah.
Right. And also, I find the keyboards on the Surface pretty terrible too.
I actually like the keyboard cover, the type cover. I love that keyboard. The trackpad is terrible, but the keyboard I think is the trackpad's terrible, but all Windows trackpads are terrible, even on ThinkPads. Yeah. But the keyboard, the feel of the keys I love it. Holden, do you like it?
Well, so I have a 15-inch MacBook Pro from 2017, so any keyboard is better.
I had that too. I'm so glad I traded that in.
Yeah. I'm sorry.
If you like that kind of keyboard, for the iPad, the Logitech thing I got that the Apple sells is almost a dead ringer for it.
I like it. The Magic Keyboard case for the iPad has an unbelievably great keyboard. I love the way it feels.
Yeah, I had it and I got rid of it because
I like it too.
Terrible.
I have it.
It's
I enjoy
so
it.
heavy though. It's so heavy.
It is. It's thick and it's heavy, but it does its job. I think it's super expensive, maybe too expensive.
Yeah, it's heavy, and then what's the point? Then at that point, what's the point of not just bringing a MacBook Air?
And that's the thing I have. Like, I'm going on a trip next month, and I'm like, do I bring my MacBook Air or do I bring my 11-inch iPad? Or iPad Air. What's that? 10.9 inches or something like that.
Right.
It's considerably smaller, but it's not necessarily lighter.
Mm-hmm.
So
but it's more versatile. That's the big thing.
For sure. All right, we got two more quick things about what wasn't announced at the keynote, and then I want Brian the opportunity to talk about his two apps he's got picked for this week. In iOS 15, you now can have iPhone apps run in landscape mode. You were never able to do that before, finally, because you'd have to have it be in portrait mode in order to be able to view that. So you're going to have that. We have links in the show notes for this information, but check that out. I think that's a great thing. The other thing too, this really caught my eye, was the fact now iOS 15 is going to allow you to request refunds in app and not have to go out to the freaking website to have to request it. You now actually will be able to do it right from in app and report a problem. Instead of going on their website, you could do it right from the app at the App Store and do it, which is a great thing. So, did you have a comment?
I thought you could do that before, though.
No, I don't think so.
Well,
it's a store. So this is actually an API that actually Apple has introduced
but there
for
was
allowing developers to implement a request a refund option for their apps.
But there was somewhere, like if you go to the account under your purchases, there was report a problem.
I don't think you could do it from there. You had to go to the website to do it.
Or it took you, that button took you to the website, I think, or something like that.
I kind of remember just filling something out, but I could be wrong. Yeah.
Any thoughts, Holden?
No, I mean, those are good features to implement. I mean, keeping things as kind of ingrained and consistent across the experience as possible is good. And so if they can offer something within an app as opposed to going outside of the app, I just think that's a better experience to the customer. Curious what the antitrust consequences of this will be. But I don't think there should be any consequences for it. I'm sure it'll catch some political eyes. We keep going to politics. No more.
You brought us there.
I think the rule of thumb with the politicians is it good for consumers? Yes. Then it's antitrust.
Yeah. Exactly.
Get rid of it.
All right, Brian. That was great to see a couple of apps. We haven't talked about any apps here in a while. Go ahead and tell everybody about your app picks for this week.
Okay, I have two. One is just it's an app I've had for like 10 years. It's been around a really long time. It's called IA Writer, and it's like it's a text editor. It's uses Markdown. It's just an incredibly well-built app. It uses all of Apple's, standard, interface conventions and whatnot. And it is expensive. It's super expensive, but there's no subscription option. You just buy it outright. And I've bought the Mac version, the iPad version, the iPhone version years ago, and I'm yet to pay again. I'm great. Sure I will eventually, but it's just consistently a solid, well-built app, and their support's unbelievable. They're super responsive. So really like that. The other one is kind of a new one that I discovered. It's a password generator. I was looking for something to just create passwords with, and it's called PWD-password generator. And you'll know it's the right one because it's got a really colorful icon.
I see that.
The color, it's a really beautiful looking app, and it's super simple to use. The good thing about it is I can generate a password on my iPhone, and it automatically goes to iCloud Clipboard, and I can just paste it into my Mac or my iPad or into a text message and send it to somebody. So it's free, and it's 100% free. So
I'm downloading that right now.
Yeah, I really do recommend it if because I've been going through and changing all my passwords and trying to make it so everything has a different password, a secure password. So this has been
Dave, LastPass and OnePass should do that too.
One Password does it, but sometimes you can have a separate independent app like this. And
it's a lot easier to open this app than go into unlock my vault and do all that other stuff.
In One Password, right?
Yeah.
So it's another option. I think I like it.
Do we know that this app is not taking all those passwords from and stealing them?
It lists their privacy, nutrition label or whatever they call it.
It says data not collected.
Data not collected. So I'm going to take their word for it. It's just a guy who makes it. It's not like some company.
Great ratings too.
His name is Sundar Pichai.
I was kind of
His name's Mark Zuckerberg.
I was looking for a Russian name.
Michael McCallum.
Yeah,
is the developer.
That's Vladimir Putin's alias, I think.
It's definitely Putin.
Right. I'll make it sound very American.
You use my app.
Yeah,
you like it.
Use now.
You use now. It's good.
All right, guys.
I actually had an app if I could recommend one.
Oh, absolutely. Let's make sure we get the show notes.
It's called Card Hop. It's made by FlexBits, who makes Fantastical. Yes. It is really solid so far. I really, really like it. Just for how simple it doesn't do a lot that the Contacts app doesn't already do. Kind of two small things it does I really appreciate. One is that you can effectively in the search bar, you can just type in a command like FaceTime Brian DePardo, and it'll just start a FaceTime call immediately, as opposed to like going to the contact, clicking the option. I like that a lot. The other thing I like, and this is really practical for a lot of people, I think, is you can create different they call them business cards. And the idea is that you have a contact app for yourself, but you'll include things in there like your address or all of your emails or, your relationships, like people in your family, people like that, and you put all these things in your contact, but you don't necessarily want to share that with everyone. So you can basically create different business cards that give you certain information to share out. Yep. And not others. I think it's a great idea. It's really simple how it works. It's good stuff. I also just like FlexBits. I think they make good stuff.
FlexBits, Fantastical is
amazing. They do. And isn't
it
like free if you already subscribe to Fantastical?
Yep.
Which I think is great. Yeah. So you're getting a lot for.
They have a Mac app.
Mac and iPad. It's iPad, iPhone, and the Mac. And Fantastical's
I could swear it's part of Setup too, isn't it? In Setup, I thought it was.
I don't know.
What is it called?
What's nice about Card Hop on the Mac is that it actually sits in the menu bar. So you can just click up at the menu bar and type in any of those commands immediately and access them. It's great.
No, it's not in Setup.
It's on. Okay. They have Fantastical on there though. I thought.
No, I don't think so.
No, they're busy contacts.
That's
what they have. Yeah.
Right.
All right.
All right. We put that link in the show notes too. But guys, we're way over time here. Let's go ahead and wrap things up. Thanks for guys being here. That's a wrap for this week. Please send your comments, questions, and suggestions to our email address, feedback@intouchwithios.com. You can follow us on Twitter @intouchwithios. You can subscribe in your favorite podcatcher, including Apple Podcasts and many others. But better yet, go to our website at intouchwithios.com, where all the links to all the ways to listen to us are there. I am Dave Ginsburg, and you can find me on Twitter @DaveG65. And Holden, where can everybody find you? You got some great podcasts you do.
Yeah, I am on the Networks podcast. If you want more Apple stuff, we got stuff there. We are also on a video game podcast called Respawn Aim Fire, where we talk about video games and all that stuff. We'll have our kind of E3 episode coming out pretty shortly. And then, you can also catch me on Twitter @Holden DePardo.
All right, great. Thanks for being here, Holden. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you. And
Brian, and you're just a freelance writer, and you're in Dallas.
Yes. And you know what? You can find me on Twitter because I have one follower. So if you want to go to Brian DePardo on Twitter, yes.
Maybe I'll get some more followers.
Is it me or is it not me? Am I a terrible son?
No, you don't even follow me. This is like some person from Russia or something like that. I don't know.
I thought I was following you.
No, you know what I did is I we deactivated my account and then forgot to reinactivate it or whatever after 30 days. So my account from that I've had since 2007 is now gone.
And you don't even miss it.
I didn't. I don't really use Twitter, so
I don't either. Actually,
yeah.
All right, well, and Warren, thanks as always for being here. And Back to the Future, go join up that club on Facebook. That great group we got. A lot of good people there. And was anything exciting going out there this week?
No drama. All good. Talking about tech. Talking about anything tech. Somebody even asked a question. I found it interesting. Somebody asked a question about she's traveling overseas to a different country, and she wants to know if there's a way to transfer her text messages from her cell company to email so she could get them. So we kind of talked about that. There's it's not really
iMazing might be an option.
Something like, but she's not going to have you need access to it remotely, I guess, to do that, right? So anyways, the point is, it's not just Mac, it's not just Apple. We talk anything tech related.
Oh yeah, it's a lot of fun. Come
and
join
also,
us.
I take the time to thank the guest. So thanks for coming.
Yeah, thanks, Brian. Thanks for being here. Holden, thanks for being here as well. We really always have a lot of time. We're going to have you back again. Thanks everybody for listening. I hope you enjoyed the show. We enjoyed doing it, and we'll talk to you next time.